We all know there are some significant races going to happen in 2014, and one of the most significant, Senator Napoli, is the race for Senate. Now, we've talked about the prospect that Mike Rounds will enter that race. That seems very likely, and the prospect seems likely that Kristi Noem will enter that race. But let's just play devil's advocate for a moment and say Kristi didn't. Why wouldn't a Bill Napoli serve South Dakota really triumphantly in the United States Senate?
Well, I'm sure that there are men out there that are like Bill Napoli that are totally capable of running for that seat. And so I think that would be something that we'd have to look into.
I don't think there's anybody like Senator Bill Napoli.
Well, that may or may not be a good positive thing, depending on which end of the Napoli you're on.
Well,
but there again, that goes back to the second question of 2014 is a very, very, it's going to be a very wild year, and it's going to be a governor's race. And where are you, Gordon, at that 2014 race?
In which race?
Governor's race.
Well, I'm not sure what your question is. Where am I?
Well, I'll just say as point blank as I can. 2014, are you interested in running for the governor's race? Running in the governor's race?
Well, Senator, I don't know.
I mean, there's already a very strong group of people out there that believe you are going to run.
I was told once that every United States senator thinks he ought to be president.
Oh, really?
And I think to some degree that's true. Ask John Thune.
Oh, sure.
And I think by that same line of thinking, practically every South Dakota senator thinks he ought to be governor. Well, and you know, I thought I should be. I'm not so sure I've got that completely out of my system yet, but maybe you'll have to ask me that question a little farther down the trail to, quote, use a Napoleism on you.
Well, I'm sure that, you know, that's all well and good, but there's a lot of people that think you're in an excellent position. You've kept yourself visible. You know, you've got a lot of stuff going on the internet. People know your name now. You're getting a lot of good name recognition, and you're doing it among the right people, the people that vote. And so you could be in an excellent position to run for that in 2014.
Well, you know, it's going to be an interesting time in both of those races, isn't it? But one thing you and I know for sure is whether we're in or whether we're out, it isn't about party, it's not about principle. Currently, that's the problem. It is not about principle.
No,
and that's
it
what
needs
you and I
to
would
be.
bring to it.
It needs to be
Yes.
about principle.
Yes. Personality shouldn't be a popularity contest, shouldn't be a beauty contest. If it was, neither one of us could win anyway.
No.
But
No.
if it were about principle, Bill Napoli could easily be in the United States Senate. And frankly, I think I would be a fit in the governor's office if it were about principle.
If it was that simple, but it's not. Because you've got so many factors out there of big money that shove those races one way or the other, that you really can't say.
A million here, a million there.
Absolutely.
Sanford here,
if you,
someone else there.
Sure, and if you had a scale of 1 to 10 and you put principle on there somewhere, it'd probably be about 4 or 5. It would not be at the top of the list for sure.
It is for some conservatives, though. And,
oh, yes.
You know, I am always hopeful in every election. I'm hopeful this November that Republicans will come out and vote principle, not personality, not even party. Not personality, but principle. And if they do, conservatives win, don't they?
Well, let me straighten that out for you. Because I think this is an important thing. The conservative Republicans care. They understand, they're educated, and they are the first ones to walk away from an election and not vote. They get angry, they say, I've had enough, and especially conservatives that are Christians, real Christians, and they just walk away. And it's the worst thing they could do, but that's exactly what happens. And I was so infuriated when the Christian vote walked away 3 years ago and left us hanging like they did when they could have swung that election simply by going and voting, but they got mad, they walked away, and they've got a reputation for doing that. Conservative Republicans do the same thing. And the problem is when they walk away, you've just handed the election to the other people that you're opposed to, that you don't want in that power, but you just handed them the seat.
Well, Senator, you and I agree on something certainly, and that is that if principle matters at all, then the right people would win.
But that's not the case.
Unfortunately,
no,
they don't always. But you know, we know that if principle would prevail, someone like Senator Napoli would go to the United States Senate. Someone who was committed to principle. I don't think I don't think there's a force in the United States Senate that would be strong enough to move you away from your principle. And that's why I think we need men and women like that, not only in the Senate, but we need them in governor's offices. And
the legislature.
And in the legislature. We've seen the mushy moderates
But
move
you've
us to the
seen
middle.
it. You've seen it with John Thune, and people get so mad at me because he's so popular. But I was only one of 2 senators that came out and endorsed John Thune when he ran for office for the House for the first time. And I got in all kinds of trouble because this was Carol Hillard country, and we were supposed to vote for Carol Hillard. And I said, nope, John Thune's the guy. And he's changed so much that strong conservative belief that he had has gone completely out the window. Now he's nothing more than a Washington insider. And now Kristi Noem is going the same direction.
You don't want to miss the next conversation that we have with Senator Bill Napoli. He tells it like he sees it, and he sees it like it is.